Okay, this video is going to be a tutorial about the AWS Elastic Block Store, or EBS, and that is just the disk storage that's used for our EC2 instances. So in this tutorial, we're going to go over the following steps. We're going to create an EC2 with a new EBS volume, so that's in addition to the root volume that's automatically created when you create an EC2 instance. We're going to format that volume and we're going to mount it, and then we're going to create a file on it. And then we're going to make it so that it's mounted on every reboot. And then what we're going to do is we're going to detach it from the EC2 instance and attach it to another EC2 instance. And that will show that that volume can then be transferred to other EC2 instances. So it's kind of like a USB stick that you can attach to any EC2 instance. And then finally, we're going to clean it up and delete the instances and the volumes. Okay, so we're going to go into our EC2 console. We're going to create an instance. Before we start, we're just going to show here, so there are no volumes right now, and there are no running instances. So we're going to launch a new instance. I'm going to select the Linux 2 AMI. I'm going to do T2 micro. Here we're just going to select the default VPC, and there's no user data that we need. And then this is the part that we need to look at here. So there's going to be a root volume that's attached. We're going to add a new volume. It's going to be here. It's an EBS, which is an Elastic Block Store, and it's going to be attached on dev SDB. And here, this is the important part, delete on termination. So we're not going to delete it. So if we terminate this instance, the volume will still exist. If you look at the root one, by default, it's going to be terminated when you terminate the instance. But this one we're going to create so that it's accessible even after terminating the instance. Then we're going to add tags. Let's just call this test EBS demo. Security group, we already have an existing security group that we're going to use, which is this one here, which allows SSH from our local machine. Review it and launch it. And then this is also a key pair that was already created from before, which you need to have to access your EC2 instance. Okay, so now that we've launched our EC2, so this is going to be the public IP, and what we're going to do is we're going to SSH into that instance when it's ready to take a look at the volumes of that instance. So let's just wait until it's finished. Let's see if we can SSH in. Excuse me. So let's do this one here. So we're going to do SSH-I, and then the PEM is your key file, and then the EC2-user @ and then the public IP. So this is like that. Okay, the first time you're going to have to say yes to this. Okay, now we're in our EC2 instance. We can see that the IP matches 172.31.45.138, which matches to this private IP here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to run a command called lsblk. Oh, and before I start with all this, let me just direct you to this AWS documentation. I'm going to link it in the description, which goes through the whole process of making an EBS volume available for our EC2 instance. Because what we just did now is we created the volume, but it's not actually usable right now. It's not formatted, and there's no mount point on the instance. So this document explains how to do all that. I'm just going to demonstrate it here. So now that we're in this instance, we're going to run this command called lsblk. So there is showing our volumes. So this xvda, this is the mount point. So the slash is the mount point for the root volume, and then there's xvdb, which is there, but there's no mount point and there's no file system. It's not formatted at all. So it's essentially like having an empty, a brand new hard drive attached to your machine, but it's not accessible yet. It's not formatted. So this is where we need to format it first. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this command sudo file -s /dev xvdb, and it's showing us that this is data so that it's not formatted. So now we're going to format that drive, or that volume rather, so that we're going to do the sudo mkfs -t and then ext4, which is the file system, and then /dev /xvdb. There. So it just formatted that that volume. If we run the file command again, this one here, now we could see that it's formatted. It's a Linux file system on it. Okay, great. So now that we have a formatted volume, we need to mount that volume. So what we're going to do is we're going to create the mount point first. So we're going to mount it on /data. So we're going to say sudo, we're going to do sudo mkdir /data. So that'll be the directory where it'll be mounted. Right now, if we just look at it, it's empty. So now we're going to mount that volume onto that directory. So we're going to do sudo mount /dev xvdb to /data. There. So now that volume is /data contains the volume that we just added. All right. So let's actually do something with that volume. Let's create a file on that volume, and what we'll do is, let's say test.txt, and then we're going to write some text here. Hi, this is a test of a new EBS volume. Okay. Now we're going to save it, and then just to make sure that it exists, that the text is there, we're going to say more, and then there's the file. Okay, great. So now we've saved something on our new volume. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make it so that that volume is mounted on every reboot. Because right now, if you stop the instance and you start it again, you're going to have to go through this process again of mounting that volume manually. So we're going to update the special file that will automatically mount the volume when the system starts. Okay, so let's go to that file, and that file is basically the file system table, or fs tab. So let's get out of here and let's do. So what we're going to do is we're going to list that file first. It's right here under etc fs tab. We're going to first back it up. So we're going to say fs tab to, oops, we're going to call it original. So now it's backed up, and now we're going to create a new entry in that file. So this is the entry for the root volume, and now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new entry for the new volume that we just created. So I'm going to pause the video right now because I'm going to copy all the stuff that I could just paste into here. So give me 1 second. Okay, so we're back, and I'm going to now add the new entry in that fs tab table. So if we look, here's our fs tab file, and I've copied the line that I need to add, which is here. So this is what we're going to add. So this is the volume dev xvdb, and then this is the mount point, this is the file system, and then this part, you can read actually the documentation what that part means, but we can just copy it from here to here, just like that. The other thing is you can use the UUID, and the documentation tells you how to use that, but you can also just use the volume name like that as well. So let me save that. And okay, now that we've saved that, we want to test that it's going to get mounted properly, that we didn't make any mistakes in our FS tab file. So what we're going to do is we're going to unmount the data, the /data directory that we just mounted, and then we're going to run through that FS tab file and see that it mounts it properly. So right now we're in our home directory, so let's unmount /data. So now if we look at /data, there's nothing there. And what we're going to do is, let's just do lsblk, and that shows that that is not mounted anymore. And now what we're going to do is we're going to run this command, sudo mount, and then all. So it's going to run through that FS tab file and mount everything in there. So there. And now if we run lsblk, there it is. So now it shows that that data, the /data directory is mounted on xvdb. And if we show what's there, so data and then test.txt, there it is. So now we can access /data. So this shows that when the system boots, it's going to mount that that /data and the new volume properly. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll actually stop the instance and show that when it starts again, it's going to mount that directory properly. So let's do here. Let's call this. Let me make sure that I have everything running here properly. Okay, let's call this test EBS demo. Let's stop it. And as you can see, any data will be lost, but because it's not ephemeral, it's fine. Okay. So now that it's stopping, I'm just going to give it a little bit of time to stop. Okay. And I'm going to pause the video while it's stopping, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to then restart it. So after it stops, I'm going to start it and then come back when everything is started again. Okay, so we are back, and so now that we're back, we can go back into that instance. So the instance has been started again. So it has a new IP address, which we're going to copy here. We're going to go back and SSH into it. Okay, there we go. And now, if we run an lsblk, we see that the /data is properly mounted. xvdb is mounted on /data. And then if we do more /data test.txt, there it is. So we see that that new volume has been automatically mounted when the system was started. Great. So now the other thing I wanted to show you was the volumes here. So if we look at the volumes, the volume that we started was, okay, this is the root volume, and this one is the one that we, like the new volume that we attached. It's not, like as you can see, the root volume was taken from a snapshot, That's how you can tell it was the root volume. The new one that we added was here, and I'm going to just label it here. So this is test new EBS demo. Because what's going to happen is if we delete that instance, this root volume is going to disappear. But this one, the one that we attached, is not going to disappear. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show how we can take this volume and attach it to a totally new or different EC2 instance. And what we're going to do now is we're going to stop the instance. In fact, we're going to terminate the instance. So we're going to go here. We're going to go here, and we're going to terminate it. And then here, if you look here, it says the following volumes are not set to delete, and that's our volume that we created, the 04330. If we look here, this is the one, 04330. So this is the one that we created, and it's not going to get deleted. So let's go back here, and actually what I'll do is I'm going to stop it so I could show you how to detach the volume first. So if we stop it, so now the volume will still be attached to that instance, and what we can do is we can unattach it from the instance, and we got to stop it first. So while it's stopping, it's going to stop in just a few seconds. And see here it's showing it's in use. Now what we're going to do is we're going to unattach it from that instance. So okay, there it is. So it's stopped. Now that it's stopped, we can go to the volumes, and we can select that volume, and we could say detach. So we can detach that volume. Great. Now while it's detaching, there it is. Now it's available. So now this instance is standalone, and it can become, we can now use it for another EC2 instance. So what we'll do is we'll create a new EC2 instance with just a root volume. So we'll create another instance like this. We're going to configure it. Here we could leave everything default. And then in the storage, it's just going to have the root volume, which is fine because we're going to attach that volume that we just, the new volume that we created. We're going to call this one, we're going to say EBS demo. We're going to call it test2. Okay. And then the security group, we're going to select the security group that we already have, review it, and launch with the key pair. Okay. So now we're bringing up a new EC2 instance, and we're going to attach our volume to that EC2 instance. So I'm going to pause here while it's coming up and come back when the instance is fully up. Okay, so we're back, and the instance is now up. So here it is. Here's the public IP. We're going to SSH into that instance. So it's here, and we're going to do that. Say yes. Okay, and as you can see, it only has one volume attached to it, just that root volume. So what we'll do now is we're going to attach the volume that we used for the previous instance to this instance. And what we need is we need the instance ID of the new instance, which is here. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go into volumes. I'm going to select the volume that we created, which is this one here. It's available, and I'm going to say attach volume. So I need the instance ID. I'm just going to paste it here, just like that. There it is. And then this is the device, /dev SDF. That's where it's going to be showing when I go into that instance. So let's attach it. Okay, it should just take a second or so to attach. Okay, there, now it's showing it's in use. So if I go back to the instance, if we see, I just ran lsblk and it wasn't showing anything. It wasn't showing that second volume. But if I run it again, there it is, xvdf, and there's the volume. But it's not mounted. So now I have to mount that volume. So let's mount the volume. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mount point, which is going to be /data again. And then I'm going to say, so mount /dev /xvdf, and then to /data. There. Okay, so now if we go into that data folder, there's our test.txt file, and there it is. And this is so now we've just shown that we've taken that volume and moved it to a totally different EC2. Okay, and that's it. So what we're going to do now is we'll just clean it up. So we'll exit out of here. We will terminate all the instances that we have running, and that's going to release that volume that we just attached. So we'll say terminate, and see here it says the following volumes are not set to delete. So that volume, again, we're going to have to delete it manually because it wasn't set to be deleted on termination. So we'll say yes, terminate. So as these guys are getting terminated, we can go into our volumes. It's still showing that it's in use, and this is our root volume. It's going to disappear now when the instance gets terminated. There should only be one volume showing here. Okay. Let's see. Okay, there it is. There's the single volume that we have, and now we can just delete it like this. And now we have no volumes, and all the instances are deleted.